Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I'm doing this video more as I just don't see too many videos on this particular machine, but this has been a pet project of mine for my in-laws, my wife's parents. They're in their 80s and they've been wanting to go and see some of their old home movies that are on Super 8mm or regular 8mm film. And we found this machine about a little over a year ago, and it's from a company called Wolverine. And it basically takes the film, which is doing it right now. Right now, I'm restoring a 1975 film from their trip to Disney World, and it's got the 3-inch reel here, and it can support up to the 5-inch reels here. And all it's basically doing is that every single one of the frames here, it is pulling it through the feeder here, and there's actually a camera right there, and I had to make adjustments here in the software where you can change the size of the frame and all that stuff, focus, good stuff. And it's taking a picture of every single frame, and then when you're done with it, it'll compile it into a moving picture, basically, into a video file that it saves on a SD card in the back. It says it can support SD or the micro SD cards there, and then you can play it back on your computer. It's a pretty cool machine. That movie just finished up, and here's the other part that a lot of people don't seem to remember, unless you are as old as I am. I just turned 40. I have to swap the reels back around, and I have to rewind. Remember the saying, be kind, rewind. And then you just select here in the menu to go ahead and rewind it once you've swapped it, and then it'll just start to rewind it back off of the reel, and then you can put it back and start again. It does take a little time to do these things, but hey, it's the way to go. This has actually been not a terribly difficult process, although some of these can get pretty bad because over time, the film gets brittle, and then you have to use a table. They actually have the old 8mm tables where if the film breaks, then you have to use tape and bonding, cut the piece here, and then splice it together. I've had to do that on a few of them, but most of them have been pretty good shape where I don't have to do that, thankfully. So while this is rewinding, another cool feature that this machine has is that you can, instead of looking at this little itty bitty tiny screen, you can actually hook it up to your TV or any monitor that has an RCA input here for the video, which, I know a lot of TVs still have that, for example. But if you really wanted to have it more universally compatible, I've had really good luck with this particular up converter where it takes RCA or S-video sources and up converts them to HDMI using a standard HDMI cable. And you can either do 720 or 1080. And the other good thing that you don't see a lot of those converters these days that do that is that they actually can adjust the aspect ratio. Instead of the 16:9 that you usually see with HDMI, it actually will show in the standard 4:3 format, with the bars on the side, but at least it does not distort or stretch the picture that you have there. Now, in terms of longevity, I took a peek inside. There's two motors. One motor drives this wheel in order to pull this reel and the film through. The cam system here, where there's basically a cam that uses the index marks here to pull the film through, and there's a motor driving that, but they're all plastic gears. Eventually those gears are going to wear out, and I don't know if you can get parts for it or not. I would be very curious on that, but the gears are lubricated with a silicone type grease, and it's probably a good idea to go ahead in there after so many of these movies that you do and just refill that silicone grease, because it does eventually wear itself out of there, and you get more friction, basically. So you want to make sure that that grease gets replenished every now and then, or at least cleaned out. But I don't see any potential issues here. It seems to be built pretty solid considering the price point, which is a little bit more pricey than many people would like to spend on it. This was about $230, $240 US at the time that I bought it. I don't know what they are now. However, I figure that something like this, unless you're getting into the business of restoring these kind of home movies, a lot of people are going to buy this machine, run their films through, get their files, and then probably sell it. But I don't know. Maybe this is definitely something I would probably wind up keeping just for the sake of having it, because hey, you never know when you might find people that actually have these old 8mm and Super 8mm films. All right, guys, I'm going to end the video here. There's only two main points as far as watching out for this kind of work for restoring 8mm and Super 8mm films. Watch out for mold cross-contamination. Some of the, as I mentioned before, the film starts to grow mold if it's in a damp environment. Thankfully, I have not run into that. But if you do have that, just make sure you clean up the machine good so that with, say, a little bit of rubbing alcohol, water, and a microfiber damp cloth, and just wipe it down so that you don't have that cross-contamination. You don't want that mold that's on that one reel to go and affect the next reel that you're going to go ahead and convert over to digital. And I haven't run into this problem too much, but you can actually have issues with film breaking if the film has become brittle over the years. My father-in-law years ago got one of these universal splicers for, it looks like you can do 8mm, Super 8, and 16mm even. And all it basically is, it's got a sharp edge here, and you can put the broken piece of the film here, one side, and the other part of the broken film here. They give you some splicing tape. Once you make a nice clean straight edge using this straight edge piece here, you just push it down like this, and you push down and make a nice clean cut, and then you can use this tape to kind of mend it back together, and then you can put it back on the reel. I had to do that a few times in the beginning because some of these reels were in pretty bad shape, but the majority of them were still in great shape. But it's great to have a nice tool like this, and I'm sure you can find them on eBay and other places here that are still doing or still have this available. I know there's a lot of places that actually professionally do this, but we wanted to do it ourselves. Thanks again, guys. I know, off topic, but pretty interesting nonetheless. Thanks again for watching.